Caving offers an escape to a world hidden beneath our feet. But for some, it's a one-way trip. Imagine being deep underground, your headlamp cutting a single beam through absolute blackness, when you realize your path forward is a trap. Texas's serene Jacob's Well hides a deadly underwater cave system. In 1983, experienced diver Richard Patton swam into what's called a false chimney, a narrow shaft that looks like an exit to the surface, but leads only to a dead end. He became disoriented in the tight space as stirred-up silt erased his visibility. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. He and his companion never resurfaced. Sometimes the trap isn't water, but the rock itself. In 2009, John Edward Jones was exploring Utah's Nutty Putty Cave when he wriggled into an unmapped passage, mistaking it for a known route. The fissure was just 10 inches wide. He became stuck upside down, his body wedged at a severe angle. For 27 agonizing hours, rescuers tried to pull him free with a complex rope and pulley system, but the cave's soft walls wouldn't hold. John died from the immense strain on his body. Recovery was deemed too dangerous for the rescuers. The cave was permanently sealed, becoming his tomb. Other times, the danger comes from above. In 1967, 6 experienced cavers descended into England's Mosdale Caverns. While they were deep inside, a torrential rainstorm began on the surface. A small river that flows through the cave turned into a raging torrent, flash flooding the entire system. There was no escape. The cave that they had set out to explore became their final resting place. These aren't just accidents, they are stories of misjudgment and the overwhelming power of the underground world. They serve as a stark reminder that when you enter the Earth's depths, you do so on its terms, and sometimes it doesn't let you go.
Imagine the deepest black you've ever known, now multiplied by infinity. That's the darkness that swallowed Cynthia Van, Ray Hardcastle, and John Pent in 1989. Deep inside Cueva de Aventa Cave in Mexico, their single flashlight blinked, sputtered, and died. They were plunged into a silence and blackness so absolute it felt solid, a world without light, where every step is a guess and every sound is your own heartbeat echoing in the void. In that moment, their world shrank to the size of their own bodies, a terrifying reminder that your most essential tool is often the one you take for granted. Sometimes the danger isn't the darkness, but the rock itself. It's ancient, and it doesn't care about your plans. John Nelson found that out in 1997 inside Arnold Hollow Cave. He and his friends came to a narrow crawl space, and John had an idea. He'd just chip away at the rock, make it a little wider, a little easier. But the cave had other plans. His chipping triggered a collapse, and with a horrifying groan of shifting earth, Dale Lancaster, Diane, and Phyllis Nelson were trapped. The very rock he tried to alter became their prison. John frantically tried to clear the debris, his hands raw, but it was no use. He had to make the agonizing choice to leave them in the dark and go for help. It would be more than 11 hours before rescuers finally reached him. 11 hours spent contemplating how one small act of impatience had almost entombed them forever. But rock isn't the only thing that moves underground. Sometimes it's the water. In 2008, Steve Gladiato was leading a group of beginners through the Sloan Valley Cave system when the unthinkable happened. Water levels began to rise fast. Passages that were dry minutes before became submerged torrents of freezing water. One of the novices, a man named Darren, bravely volunteered to swim 175 feet of frigid water to get a light. But the cold was too much. Exhaustion took over, and he began to fail. Without a second thought, Steve dove in after him. He fought the current, holding Darren's head above the icy water, guiding him through the darkness. Darren was critically hypothermic, his body shutting down, but Steve's quick thinking and sheer will kept him alive. It was a brutal lesson in how fast a cave can turn on you, and how survival can hinge on one person's refusal to give up. But even the best decisions can't fix the first, fatal mistake. 2 divers entered the cave, but they ignored the most basic safety rule. They didn't attach a guideline. Deep inside, their tanks got wedged in a narrow passage. With air hissing away and time running out, they began to panic. They scrambled, disoriented, and took a wrong turn into a blind chimney, a dead end. With no air left, no line to follow back, one of the divers made a final desperate choice. He abandoned his companion, Patton, leaving him to drown alone in the suffocating darkness. It's a tragedy that shows how it all comes apart. The ignored protocol, the panic, the wrong turn. It's a reminder that deep beneath our feet, the rules are absolute. There is only the rock, the water, the dark, and the choices you make before you ever step inside.
April 19, 2012. Carlos, a dive guide with no real qualifications, takes two novice divers, Marina and Eduardo, into the dangerous depths of Cenote Chacmal in Mexico. He leads them far beyond the safe cavern zone into a dark overhead environment, a place with no quick escape to the surface. It isn't long before Marina panics. Her breathing becomes frantic and she burns through her air supply at an alarming rate. Eduardo, seeing his friend in distress, tries to help, sharing his own precious air. But it's too late. Marina drowns in the darkness. Soon after, Eduardo's tank runs dry as well. Their bodies are recovered hours later, a fatal tragedy born from one man's criminal failure to follow basic safety standards. But sometimes the failure isn't so clear-cut. Sometimes it's born from pride. In January 1986, a team of highly experienced spelunkers descended into Parker's Pit Cave. A simple rigging error sent one of them plummeting 22 feet onto the hard limestone floor. By some miracle, he survived. This should have been the end of the trip, a terrifying warning to get out. Instead, fueled by adrenaline and overconfidence, they pushed deeper. They later encountered a notorious formation called the Z-Bend, a tight, twisting passage that became a deadly trap, compressing one of the caver's chests and slowly suffocating him. Their refusal to retreat after a near-death fall nearly cost him another life. The mistake can be even smaller, a simple miscalculation. It'll only take 20 minutes. That was the thinking when Kevin Dunleavy and his team left their emergency gear behind to explore the Shoemaker Room in Wimmer Cave. But the cave had other plans. A sudden collapse trapped Dunleavy under a massive 50-pound rock. With no tools to lift it, the group's simple mistake became a life-or-death crisis. After 30 minutes of desperate, frantic effort, they finally freed him using a single rope from one of their personal packs. A small lapse in judgment almost became a permanent one. And sometimes the danger has nothing to do with human error, but with the raw, unpredictable nature of the earth. Near Oregon's Skull Cave in 1987, Kevin Atkinson was descending into a collapse hole. His partner, John Adams, walked near some unstable rocks above, triggering a massive rockfall that instantly buried both men under tons of volcanic debris. In another cave, a group's lights failed, plunging them into absolute blackness. As they fumbled for an exit, they found their path blocked by an aggressive 6-foot snake, disturbed and cornered. Trapped in the dark with only a dim flashlight, one man, Ray Hardcastle, had to find a makeshift pole and subdue the snake long enough for everyone to scramble to safety. Perhaps the most chilling stories are when bad luck and bad decisions collide, forcing an impossible choice. On November 23, 1983, Richard Patton and his diving companion entered Jacob's Well, a place with a deadly reputation. To squeeze through a narrow passage, they had to remove their air tanks and push them ahead. Patton's tank became hopelessly stuck. In the pitch-black water, they were forced to share a single air source. Disoriented, they took a wrong turn into a blind chimney, a dead end. With their air supply nearly gone, Patton's companion made an agonizing decision: stay and die with his friend, or abandon him in a desperate bid for survival. He chose to live. He escaped, but Richard Patton drowned, alone in the silent darkness. These events, scattered across decades and different caves, all tell the same story. Caving, while an incredible adventure, demands profound respect for its inherent dangers. These accounts serve as stark reminders that anyone, from a novice to a seasoned expert, can fall victim to the unexpected. It's often not a single catastrophic failure, but a small misjudgment, a moment of complacency, or a lack of preparation that proves fatal. Because underestimating the power of the cave is the one mistake you don't get to make twice.